Hey everybody, Big Lyle back here for another episode. It's going to be a good one. Some people might not like it. Cabunin, be good. So this one here I'm going to show is a very rare, obscure comic to find. There's only a few on eBay and on another site, which I'll mention in my notes. So this one here is called a Canadian Comics Cavalcade, Volume 1, Number 1 from 1986. And this sold for $2 Canadian or $1.70 US at the time. And the proceeds to this comic book, all proceeds from this comic book will go to the aid of the food banks of Canada. So what I couldn't find out much about what the print run was, although they say it was very low because it was an independent comic. But this one is also the first appearance of Mr. Canoehead in here, and I'll show you, because it's a wraparound cover, I'll show you what it looks like. And there, up here, Mr. Canoehead. I showed this on our Friday night hangout on the Comic Collector Geeks channel, Alan, with some other comic book collectors. I showed it on February 7th, 2025, and nobody had ever seen it before. And I could hear people tapping in the back, and they were looking online while I was showing the book. And everybody that was involved with the chat or in the stream had purchased a copy. So I've looked them up prior to this. I saw that there was a couple online that range in price from just over $8 Canadian, and the other one was $45 Canadian, but I'll get back and giving you a little bit more information where you might find a copy for a reasonable price. So this was a one-shot, and it was created by a Canadian comic book artist creator, Ken Steacy. So his last name is spelled Steacy. And what I could find out is that presently he's living in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. So I know there was a lot of people on the site when I showed it that once they got looking it up and realizing that Mr. Canoehead was a complete idiot, they didn't like the character at all. But it's a fun thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you what the art looked like inside. And there was a whole slew of other artists that contributed to this. Like there's the editor publisher and artworks was Gideon Steinberg. And then there's a character in here called Bunny, which was created by Chester Brown. Mr. Canoehead was the pencils and the inks, and the cover layout was done by a fellow called Anthony Van Bruggen. And the last man character in here was done by Kent Burles. The Blitzbuster was done by Steve LeBlanc. Northgard character in here was done by Gabriel Morissette. And what I found out about this person is, like, I grew up and born and raised in northern Quebec, about 500 or 600 miles north of Montreal, little mining community. And this fella, or a lady, I'm not sure, Gabriel Morissette, grew up in Val-d'Or, Quebec, which was about 60 miles east of where I grew up, which is great. There was Neil the Horse and Soapy character in here that was created by an artist called Arn Saba. And another character in here called Wordsmith was created by R.G. Taylor. And Lance, Amazing, and Whizzer were created by an artist called Ty Templeton. And I'll show you a little bit of what to expect with the art in here. And yeah, Mr. Canoehead. Supposedly, a fellow was struck by lightning and the canoe welded to his head. If you watch the Comic Collector Geek, one of his videos from the night of February 7th, 2025, on our Friday night hangout, you'll see the whole video and more in depth about this character. So there's some of the art. This is a fella here called Blitzbuster. I found this in a secondhand bookstore. Another character that they have in it's called the Jam. And another character they had in here was called Northgard. And another one called The Boors, Boores, by Larry Nadolski. And the Arn Saba, Neil the Horse. And the Island of Tempered Fantasies is another. And some more art that they have in here. I've had this copy probably 20 years. Here's some more art. This could be you 100 years into the future. Anyway, there's some people out there that have commented that I should have music going while it's quiet here. I've looked up the features on this computer, and there's nothing where I could just add music. I've looked, and there's some more Mr. X and The Wordsmith by R.G. Taylor. When I showed this on the Friday Night Hangout, I just showed the cover. I didn't have maybe a few pages, but not to this extent. And then you have Lance Amazing of the Galactic Space Confederacy. Quite the title. And it does say on the very last page, next, an unexpected visitor. But the search that I'd done, there is no second issue. This was a one-time, one-shot comic. It does state at the bottom that there's a next issue, but that never happened. And I couldn't find anything online about why it didn't go. But again, if I do find some information on it, I will add it to a future episode here. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of what I did find on it. So again, we do have, it's a first appearance of Mr. Canoehead. And the cover colors were done by an artist named Paul Rivoche. He and the creator, Ken Stacey, he also done the Canadian Comics Cavalcade logo. The editor and publisher, his name was obviously Gideon Steinberg, which I mentioned earlier. I tried to find out how much money had been raised through the benefit, the food bank, and I couldn't find anything on that. So I did find 2 copies of Canadian Comics Cavalcade on eBay, one for $9.99 US, and the other one was $47.82 Canadian. And which I did find out that the comic book, I tried to find out what the print run was, and they said that the print run was very low because it was from an independent publisher. So I will give you some other works that Ken Stacey has done, which is quite a few, actually. I'm very surprised. I think I probably have about 97% of these books. So his other works that he did was in the comic called Andromeda #2. He did 3 pages from 1978. Alien Worlds, Volume 2, #1 from 1986. And then he worked for Comico, where he did Johnny Quest #8 from 1987. Night and the Enemy, which was a graphic novel, 1987. Robotech, the graphic novel, 1986. Space Ghost #1, he was a colorist in 1987. And here's some of his works that he did for DC. Batman #400 in 1986. Black Hawk, issue 272 in 1984. Doom Force Special #1, 1992. Doom Patrol, Volume 2, #53. Harlan Ellison's 7 Against Chaos, which was a hardcover. He was the colorist. That one came out in 2013. Secret Origins #35 from 1988. Tempest Fugitive 1 through 4, 1990. Who's Who in the DC Universe #15 from 1992. Who's Who in the Legion of Superheroes #6, 1988. Excuse me. Who's Who, the Definitive Directory of the DC Universe #11 and 19, 1986. Some of his works for Eclipse Comics was Alien Worlds #8, 1984. The Sacred and the Profane, which was also a graphic novel from 1987. And for Marvel Comics, he did Amazing High Adventure #5, 1986. Epic Illustrated #4, 6, 11, and 20 through 26 from 1980 to 84. Marvel Comics Presents #78, 1991. Marvel Fanfare, issues 22 and 23 and 44 from 1985 to 89. Savage Tales, Volume 2, #5, 1986. Star Wars #105 and 106, 1986. And a comic called Strip #11 from 1990. He He also worked on Now Comics, the original Astro Boy, number 1 through 16 in 1987. He worked for Orb Publications. He did Orb Magazine, number 3 and 4 from 1974-75. He also did Pacific Comics, Alien Worlds, number 2 through 5, 1983. Silver Heels, number 1 through 3 in 1983 and 84. Twisted Tales, number 2 from 1983. Star Reach, number 8 through 14 and number 16 from 1977 to 79. Vortex, number 3 through 5, 1983. And The Adventures of Jello Man and Wobbly, number 1, 1991. And if you want more information on other works that he's done, because there's quite a large list, you check the Grand Comics database or Key Collectors Comics. So what I did find on another site called Sell My Comic Books, there was the original art cover, the original art of this. I'm assuming from the information that because it had a question mark that it sold for $400, but don't quote me on that because I'm not sure if that. But when that was found out that it was at the $400 mark and the auction was still open, but I can't say that was the final bid of that. Another place you might be able to find a copy, like I said earlier, that it would be really cheap is called outpostcomics.com. If you check that online, they have an issue there for $3, and they accept all forms of payment, PayPal and credit cards, all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to review my books here, and see if I've forgotten anything. No, I think well, he was also inducted in the, well, actually, he started his own company called the Canoehead Publishing Company in 2004, and he was awarded the Joe Shuster Canadian Comic Book Creator Hall of Fame in 2009. And that's pretty much all I could find on him, on Ken Steacy. Oh, I do know he lives in Victoria, which is BC, isn't very far from my place, probably about, when you have crossed the ferry from the mainland to Vancouver Island, it's probably a 4.5 hour drive from my place. Anyway, if you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. And as of this recording, I was up to 168 subscribers. And I think I was just over 2,300 views, which is unbelievable. So some people have mentioned in the comments that my resolution is not that great. It's as high as it'll go on this computer at 720. If they want me to go to 1080, the cost is through the roof, and the lighting is going to change eventually. Again, I'm relatively new at this, and I'll do the best that I can. So I hope you enjoyed all of this, and wish everybody the best. Thank you very much for subscribing to my channel, and it's work in progress. So thank you very much, everybody. May God bless. Adios.